Hello, everybody. Let us know where you're tuning in from tonight. I'm Brad Jewett.
I'm Tim the Trailman.
Keeping it real.
And now, Brad and Tim.
And now, the starting lineups for the Keeping It Real show. From Oak Point, Texas, the Kamikaze Cowboy.
From Reedley, California,
the Tokyo Tex. The Sukiyaki Jockey, the MOT, the Man of Trail, Tim Camara. And now, from the San Antonio Spurs, the captain of the
Back
team,
in studio,
the man
baby.
with the dream, the man behind the wheel, at Keeping It Real, Brad Jewett.
Timmy, what's going on, man? So as everybody can see, Timmy is not in Oak Point, Texas. He is back home in Reedley, California, as we all know about his mother from last week. So he's joining us from there. How you doing, Tim? How you holding up, man?
Pretty good. I went to the cemetery today. I saw my dad's grave, my sister's grave,
Awesome.
and they were going to bury my mom, and did some stuff over there. And yeah, all good.
Awesome.
There's a viewing tomorrow, so it's all good.
Very good, very good. We got a great lineup. We got a great crew in here watching already tonight.
Yeah.
We had some amazing pictures at the beginning of this, and we're going to be bringing some more of those back up as we go through Miss Holly and her story. What a great interview that Tim had with her yesterday. We've got 2 pages of notes, and should I be what am I trying to say? What am I trying? Tell them about tomorrow night is what I'm trying to, spoiler. That's what I am. A spoiler alert. That's what I'm trying to say.
Tell him.
We're going to do 2 nights of Miss Holly Hover because there is so much here to go over. We're not even going to get to some of the stuff tonight that's going to be relative to her judging and what she's been able to do. So that's going to be a little bit more about tomorrow night. But I promise you will not be disappointed, and you will always be entertained by one Miss Holly Hover because we love the humor, the facial expressions, and if you were watching closely on a lot of her pictures, you could see him in her pictures. And I know a lot of you that are here know her so well. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you're ready, Tim,
Bring her in.
let's bring her in. Oh, let's do this music. Oh, Carly, you're already getting a shout out. Look at that.
Hi.
Go ahead. What'd you say, Holly?
I said, hi, guys.
Hey. Sorry, I had the music up a little too loud.
I know, it's kind of loud.
We like your red.
Thank you. Red's a power color.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I like your picture behind you, too. Does that have any meaning whatsoever? Any horses you had, or you just love the painting or what?
That would be courtesy of Sissy Roberts Shank and her fine art collection. So
Beautiful.
I'm just going to stand here proudly and pretend like it's mine.
Yeah. What about Miss
awesome.
Carla being the first one in?
She's my friend. She's my loyal friend.
Wow.
Plus, I
Jamie,
have to pay her
hopefully.
$10.
Hey, what's the temperature over there in Arizona?
Temperature 107, a cool 107.
So that's another one. Okay, so coming from Big A and all the humidity, and you come to California, it's this dry heat.
Dry
It's like,
heat.
yeah, it's like you're close to hell. Sorry about that, but it feels like you're in the mix over here. It's hot. It's hot. Wow, I have to get used to that again. Okay, Holly, I'm going to jump because we got so much stuff to cover.
Okay.
Tell us where you're born, and then.
So I was born in Denver, Colorado 30 years ago.
And I was really curious, Mom, Dad,
He totally missed that, Holly.
what?
She said she was born in Denver, Colorado 30 years ago.
Parker.
We all know it's like 32 years ago.
There was not a hospital in Parker. There was barely a gas station.
I was just in Parker the other day.
I know it's changed.
I do like Parker, Elizabeth area. There's good food over there. They always take.
Nice. Love
Great
good food.
Okay, so let's try it again. Then tell me where you're born, and then tell me about your folks and your grandmother. I was curious.
Okay, so I truly was born in Denver, Colorado. My home was Parker, Colorado, but again, it was just a little bump in the road back then. And so my family, my dad is a 3rd generation Colorado person. My mom came from Minnesota. They met in college. My dad went to Colorado College in Colorado Springs, and my mom went to University of Colorado in Boulder. They were probably as opposite as you could even imagine, but somehow it worked, and they got married. And I have one brother and myself, and that was enough for them. My mom's mother, interesting note about her, she was from Minnesota. Her name was Grace Davis, and she was born in 1898. She attended the University of Colorado as well. She graduated. She was the first female graduate. So all of you that know me, I've probably said this 1,000 times, but I'm very proud of it. She was the first female graduate of the University of Colorado in 1921. So there were really actually 3 women that graduated, but alphabetically she was the first. And so I'm sticking with she was the first female graduate at the University of Colorado.
How about the train story you told us yesterday?
Yep. So she got on a train. She was from northern Minnesota, and she rode the train. Imagine that, through the Midwest to the West. And she lived there year round because I imagine it wasn't easy to take a train back to Minnesota and back to Boulder. So she lived year round. The 3 women lived off campus in a home by themselves, kind of sequestered with a house mother. And they had their pick of thousands of men.
Just like you, Holly.
Grandma.
Just like you. You had to pick of thousands.
You got to know.
Tell us again what years those were. Like,
So she was born in 1898. She
Yeah.
graduated in 1921, and she graduated with a degree in home economics, which kind of makes sense for the time. But she was really a woman way before her time. She then went to Mesa Verde, and she taught on the Indian reservation, lived with a family in Cortez, Colorado, and taught home economics.
wow. Even our grandparents, our parents, that history, I love just hearing some of that because it's before our time, and sometimes we miss some of that, and we don't appreciate what we do nowadays. And they're the forerunners of everything before us. They're the trailblazers, right? So
Right. And when you think about a woman doing that in that time frame of our history, it was really quite remarkable. And she was a real interesting, fun lady. She was absolutely before her time. And again, that was my mom's mother.
right. So tell us about your roots of riding.
So I remember the story goes when my mom and dad became engaged. My dad gave my mom an Appaloosa mare. Don't ask me why. And my mom gave my dad a set of golf clubs. And so that kind of laid the groundwork for our recreation throughout our whole life. My dad golfed, my mom rode horses, and she did start in the Appaloosas, and then we kind of moved into the quarter horses. But her first horse in Colorado, her first riding horse was an Appaloosa mare. And then many horses later, here I am today.
So did your mother train a little bit too, or did she train other people?
My mom did ride. She was a good horsewoman. She knew a lot about breeding. Her family, her uncle raced trotting horses in Minnesota. They owned a stallion, which I actually Googled the pedigree. His name was Roy Wilkes, and the story goes that he was the winningest trotting racehorse in the country at his time. I looked on his pedigree, and it said he was born in 1893. So, I mean, this is a long time ago. And my mom has great stories about what they gave the horses to get them to run. And, it was kind of a narcotic filled industry. And she said she remembered that stud being tied in cross ties, and they would wrap cloth around his head because whatever they had given him, he would be whacking his head against the wall. And so I think it was a crazy time for racing back then. But her love of horses came from her family. And my grandmother rode horses, but really out of necessity. I'm not sure if it was before cars, probably fairly close in the early 1900s. But we have pictures of her riding as if you would ride a bike or ride to school or ride to the market. So horses definitely came from my mom's side. My dad was a city guy. How he ended up in the country in Parker is beyond me. I'm sure if he were still alive, he would still be scratching his head. And his motto was, anything that eats while you sleep is a poor investment. And that's how through all the horses.
That's
so
awesome.
He was a pretty
Never
good
heard
sport. He liked to give them shots, and that's about it.
So Bradford, ask Conan, is she a little high in the picture?
She is, but she's the queen. She's allowed to be a little higher than us.
Well, I was just gonna say, do we fix? Yeah, they're right there. I can't.
No,
tell
or Tim, can you raise yours up at all? Can you be taller in the saddle?
me.
Yeah, there you go.
That doesn't look comfortable.
Is it? 2-star hotel. Okay.
I was just trying to sit up straight like Carla would.
Okay.
Well,
so,
we got a picture to for Carla to go over here in a little bit.
Oh yeah. I bet.
Okay, so let's start with your first AQHA horse a little bit, and then we're gonna go to that picture. I think we'll start there.
Well, my first AQHA. So as I told you yesterday, when I started showing in youth in Colorado, it was absolutely huge. Our shows had like 5 classes, I think. There was showmanship, horsemanship, pleasure, reining, cutting, and some halter. But we could show studs. So I didn't ever do that. I imagine that was probably a good idea. But that just shows you how long ago it was and the parameters of the rules. So we had great big classes, and I actually, my first horse was, her name was General Tootsie, and she was a red road mare. And I'm not exactly sure of her beginnings, but I got her. She kind of taught me to ride. She was by a son of Leo named General Lee, and so her pedigree was her registration number was very low, and from the old time. So then I moved into actually what my big chase and my big career move was to try to emulate Debbie Kale. And Debbie Kale at the time was Debbie Whalen, and she, if she's listening, will remember that she had more AQHYA youth champions than anyone, and so I had my eyes set on her, and that was a feat I did not succeed in doing, but I kind of ran the gamut of trying to be Debbie Kale. So I moved into another young horse. We would go to ranches and we would look at yearlings and weanlings, and if we hadn't raised one, we would pick out a yearling and a weanling in the local ranches in Colorado. So my first actual youth champion was a mare named Gala Beaverbar, and you'll see her. I have the swanky gold showmanship outfit on with her, and she was by a horse named Beaver Creek, which is one of the old foundation sires as well. So she came from a ranch in Lamar, Colorado named the Lazy T-Bar Ranch. And so we bought several colts from there. That one happened to be one of the more successful ones. So from then on, I moved through about 5 horses in my younger years.
Can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
So, I mean, I read the story, and it's weird, but well, I could see you and your brother and your mom going around looking at yearlings, and
Yes.
and these cowboys are bringing them out to you to show them, and you're going to pick something, mares,
Right.
you're going to pick some mares, and then you're going to bring them home, and you guys sound kind of young, and
We were.
you're going to break them out.
So yes, but we had an old guy, an old mentor, and he was a horseshoer, and he was one of the original AQHA judges. His name was Bill Gabriel, and so he would come over, and yep, they had to rope them, and we tied their feet up, and we sacked them out, and he kind of showed us how to do that. And he would snub them up to a horse, and we would get on, and he'd pony us, and how we didn't get killed is beyond me. And maybe that was the master plan of my parents, I don't know. But somehow we muddled through it and got our horses broke. We didn't really have horse trainers then. It was just people like him that came to help, or 4-H, or,
Right.
just neighbors.
I mean, that's how we were taught in our colt breaking classes in college at Cal Poly and stuff. And I can visualize this, and it's so weird that that's how we did it back in the day. And now things have changed a little bit. I mean, we kind of buy, right?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. There was no buying a broke horse. They weren't for sale. They weren't around. You had to get a yearling or a weanling. That's just how it went.
So in this era, actually, let's do that picture. How's that? Because it's a prize picture.
Poor Holly. Poor Holly.
Poor Holly.
Hey.
So let's give props to this horse, okay?
Elf
This horse is-
Elf called, and he's wanting his costume back.
Hey, stop it.
Tell this horse.
Stop
I
was
can
a
only do
velour
that because you're a great sport, Holly.
Resume
That was
is
a velour
first.
jacket. So this horse is the horse my mom, I think I told you the story, and this has to do with Sandy Jerkowski. My mom traded a pretty nice Appaloosa mare straight across for this horse. He was a stud, a 5-year-old stud. His name was Pepper J. Skip. And so we wanted to do the quarter horse. So she, I don't know exactly what happened, but she got out there and took a mare. The mare's name was Mighty Done Good, and she was later a world champion for Jim Jerkowski. And we got this horse. It was my youth horse. We gilded him, and off we went.
Wow. Nice. I like the fringe, but okay.
Hey,
So how about this in this era, okay, this time zone? We talked about the Denver Stock Show the other day, and then the other
Right.
state fair shows that you guys had that were huge. Can you kind of talk about showing in those and what they were like?
right. So the Denver Stock Show was one of the great winter stock shows. And of course, it had a huge livestock show as well as a multi-breed horse show. And it was huge. Like I can remember showing in the 2-year-old mares, they had 60 and it was just circling the arena, and kids showed their horses. Their hair coats were so-so. We didn't know about lights. We tried blanketing them. It was a pretty raw form of showing horses at halter. The big people would come in, Howard Pitzer, Hank Wieskamp, later people like Russ Smith would come from Iowa, Dean Landers. So there was the who's who, Matlock Rose.
Wow.
I mean, it was a big time. So it was like our quarter horse congress. We all couldn't hardly wait to do it. It was right after Christmas. It was very exciting, very big. We would show the horses in the rodeo right after the bucking horses. They dropped the flag and in come the pleasure horses. And I mean, it was Western,
Wow,
but
that's awesome.
I'm not sure how they judged it, but somehow they did.
But historic. I mean,
Oh,
Cow
yeah.
Palace was like that. And,
Very much like the Cow Palace.
and it was, I don't know, prestigious, yes, exciting, like to hang out with the rodeo guys and hang out with all the other events,
Beyond
right?
exciting. Beyond exciting. And the crowd, I mean, there was not a seat to be had. It was a big deal. And it was certainly our pinnacle in Colorado, as well as the Colorado State Fair, which would have been in the fall in Pueblo. So again, those state fairs were the primary shows, and it's kind of a shame they've all kind of run the wayside, the stock shows as well, because that was a great time in horse showing, I think. Now it's
Different.
not easy to get in and get them prepared, but back then, prepared, we didn't care. Prepared, we just wanted to get in the ring, right?
Right.
And the one that bucked the least won.
How about the other riders in this era that we're talking about here? I mean, you talked about a few of them over there. Is there any other ones you want to mention that you showed against? I mean, before we get to
So
Harley.
my group, I had a fine little group of riders. Margot Ball, who you all know was in my group. Tanya Relander, she was actually my best friend and neighbor. And we had matching buckskin, so we were also very efficient in the pair class at the gymkhanas on the weekend. And in the old days in the horsemanship, very often the judges would ask you to switch horses. So we knew each other's horses very well. So we would always try to get in the lineup and try to, we could see that he would make him go from left to right. So we would always try to line up so that he would switch us from one horse to the other. So we had a little gig going on there. But Tanya, of course, has gone on and been so successful with the pleasure and hunt seat horses. And I still keep in touch with her. And another lady who's back again showing is Jerry Lockwood. Sean Glaudy, a little younger, but certainly in that era. And then there was my eye on the West Coast people, which is a whole different set. But I mean, I was in an era of really great young horsemen.
So maybe we can talk about Carla here then. I mean, she was in,
Carla.
right.
Now, Carla was who we looked up to. Carla was the first, I think, in the true great all-around youth exhibitor, the one that in no matter what event she came in, she was the one to beat. And so I remember going to our youth world. It was in Tulsa, and Carla was there, and she had this big, beautiful, state-of-the-art, way ahead of his time horse named Tom Raffles. And so she just came in from North Carolina in this great whirl of glory. And she, I believe, was being helped then by Dr. Jim Hurd, of course, and Lynn Palm. And so she was, I think, a 3-time world champion the first time I saw her. So Carla was who we all looked to for the person we wanted to be, right? She was our role model, and plus very gracious. And a funny side note to that is her mother, Nancy, has same birthday as my mom, and they're very good friends. But Nancy would hang out at the Colorado stalls at the youth world because she just thought since it was Colorado stalls, it was cooler. So we got to know Nancy very well. She defected North Carolina stalls and joined our Colorado stalls.
Wow. So at the same time here, I'm going to use a little Chad stuff here. Like Western Horseman, I mean, did you get some information from there too as you're trying to learn to ride? Because there wasn't so many.
I mean, that's the only way you could really get information was reading articles. And so the Western Horseman was the magazine to go to, the Quarter Horse Journal as well. But the Western Horseman interviewed a lot of, the relevant great horsemen, a lot of the cow horse people, a lot of the West Coast early horsemen that we so looked up to. And that's really primarily, except for watching the great people, the Carla Wenbergs. I mean, I just watched and I just pretended I was them, and what they did, I did. I was like a mockingbird. If Carla Wenberg did something, I was out there practicing that step. And there was another girl as well named Linda Fitterling, who was, I believe she was the all-around youth in the nation. So I just, that's how we learned, if they beat you, I just did what they did. And that's kind of what we all did.
What do you think? What do you think in 10 years from now, if we're doing an interview, what do you think somebody's going to say about how they, were pushed, or what they did, because you're talking about magazines and reading articles and all that. I mean, what are the, if we fast forwarded 10 years, and not that we're going on to the next generation, but it just brings a question to my mind is what are we going to do? What's going to be the answer? Is it going to be go horse show? I mean, what's it going to be? Do people read anymore?
I don't know. That's a good question. It seems like they do look at their social media a lot. So I am confident that people can, in fact, read.
Yeah.
But I think there's so much help. These kids get so much help, and I mean, we're all a little bit responsible for that. We don't let them learn on their own, trial and error. We're jumping in and showing them the shortcuts because we didn't have to. So, like when I had a horse, it was my horse. I had to show it, and that was it. And if I could get it worth the money and get it sold, fine and dandy. But there was no going out and buying a better horse. And so then when I became a trainer, I would say to someone, that horse isn't quite good enough.
Right.
Let's see if we can do something better.
Right.
And I think that's a big difference. Has that been 100% positive? I'm not sure it's nurtured or laid the groundwork, the foundation of the depth of horsemanship that we had to have. Yeah. Because we didn't get to take any shortcuts, right? We had to make do with what we had.
Well, and I think you just got such a great foundation. Now it seems like when they learn how to be a pleasure trainer, they want to do the all around, or they want to do the reining, or they want to do the cow horse. And back then it was just, you wanted to be the best horseman that you could be. Like you said, what you learned was they snubbed you up to another horse to get on your first horse and do it that way. You didn't know all the pressures and releases, the terminology maybe wasn't there. I mean, I was kind of a Tom Dorrance guy. I read that book, his book. That's kind of how I learned about my colt breaking days and stuff, and Ray Hunt. But it really, nowadays it's like everybody's just very specialized, even in their training, but also in their learning of it. It's like, I see somebody do it this way. Let's just do it that way.
And, I'm not saying one is better or not. It's just different. And I think our generation, my generation of trainers, we're a little bit responsible for that because we really trained people to show horses. We got horses prepared. We got them broke horses. We got the horses broke, and then we taught people to show.
Right.
And so I think that's a big difference. Nobody ever taught me to show. I was just lucky to get my leads and get around. And then I would say, I'd go, Mom, that girl keeps beating me. And she goes, well, she seems to be sitting a little better than you. And maybe she's not low and green.
Just common sense. Or she seems to be sitting better. That brings up a good point, because a lot of my parents are like, some of the new ones will come in, I don't know what I'm looking for, this or that. And then give them a couple of horse shows. And they're like, well, this one looked like they were doing. I was like, you already figured it out. Like,
yeah.
Confidence in somebody just kind of selling it to you. I said, that's
Right.
what we try to get through to a lot of these kids from the judge's perspective, right? Is the confidence piece that shows up.
How about your one horse with the lead change when you went to California and got help from a friend?
Right. So I was, which is kind of crazy when I think about it, but I was 9 years old and I had that roan gilding. And in 4-H, there was different levels. And so to get to the highest level, which every 9-year-old needs to do, you had to have a lead change for this test. So I tried the old pick and stick. I pulled, I spurred, nothing. I couldn't get him to change leads. So Jack and Linda Baker came to Colorado and did a clinic. And Jack and Linda Baker, the West Coast people really know them, but they were like the premier trail Western riding, Western discipline trainers coming from California. So it was a great thrill. So I take my little roan gilding there, and he talks me through it, and I push and pull, and I got my pants tucked in my boots like I'm from New Mexico, and I'm like pulling him, and he's going, this horse, he's raw mouth. He goes, get off, let me get on. So he gets on him, and he rolls that spur up him, and he's pulling him around, and that thing, if you know Skipper W's, he's like 5 minutes from Jack being airborne. So finally gets off, and my mom's standing there, and there was no lead change, and he goes, give it up, this thing's never going to change leads. So with that being said, my mom had read an article in the Western Horseman magazine by John Hoyt, talking about John Hoyt and changing leads. And so the next spring, during my spring break, she loaded us up, and my brother and my dad came with me to Arizona. We were in the old station wagon, and they golfed, and my mom took me out to John Hoyt's, and that was where I began a very lifelong relationship with one of the greatest horsemen I think there's probably ever been.
We're gonna pull up your picture with you and Debbie and John right there.
So there's John when he came to Arizona and was brought into the Arizona Hall of Fame. And a great horseman. On the West Coast, there was really John Hoyt and Jim Paul. Here in Arizona especially, and the trickle down of the people that can see their roots and ties to those two men is just incredible and unfathomable. So John, I think, kind of felt sorry for me. I'm not going to say I was a dork, but okay, maybe I was kind of a dork. And when I showed up there, I kind of tromped around, and he took a lot of time with me trying to get me to teach my roan horse to change leads. And I can remember it like it was yesterday. I was out in the field, and I got a lead change, and it was like the deal of my life. So that's where it all started for me.
So, I know you've been friends for a lifetime with him and stuff like that. So that's really right. And like coaches like that, like it's funny that they can keep, as we grow older, they can keep giving us information and knowledge that we didn't hear the first time, right? They could have probably told us before, but like let's say it's Bobby for me, like I heard one of his videos the other day, and it just registered what he was saying, like, oh, I get it. Now I'm ready to learn what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Right.
He was talking about breaking these and fraternity horses back then, and it was a different time. And
yes, and John was really one, and I think he even said in a few articles that people brought him horses, and it was his responsibility to make them good at something. And so you don't see that now. You can send your 2-year-old somewhere, and either, a reiner, pleasure horse, whatever it may be, they either make the cut or they don't make the cut. And in those days, there was no cuts, right? That horse, those people wanted to train to do something. So he was just the master at finding what was good in a horse, and he was the master at teaching you how to find what's good in a horse and enhance that.
Well, that I would like to back up because that's what it's all about. It says learning great fundamentals of training, caring, raising horses as a young horsewoman, learning hard work and hands-on experience, right? So
Right.
they taught you hands-on how to kind of train horses or get the most out of those horses back in that day. Where
Yes.
a hair different now, I think it feels like it, you know. Yeah, I mean that's just how the industry's changed a little bit.
Yes.
I'd love to go to your college. Can you talk about school and your parents and you and all that?
Yes. So what I remember about school, I'm kidding. So when I went to school, I was a little bit, I was raised in quite a strict family, and I had gone to a very strict high school, small high school. So when I went to school, I originally went to Trinity University in Texas, and
San Antonio, Texas, that is.
San Antonio,
That's right.
Texas, Meteor's restaurant.
Yeah.
So I came home after the first year, and I attended the University of Colorado, kind of in the tradition of our family women. And I, needless to say, could have studied a little bit harder. I did not complete school. My family is very rigid as far as education, etc. That was a very large dagger to my parents. But I think after 50, 60 years, they kind of got over it. So
Yep.
At any rate, I completed my schooling as best I could, and I took a job training horses for a family that was very well known at that time in South Jordan, Utah, named the Flukigers. And I worked with just the one daughter, the daughter that was the last daughter to show. And preceding me in that position was Pete Kyle and Milt Alderman, Gary Warner. So, I mean, they'd had a lot of private trainers in there, and I was the last of that little group. So I moved from my college dorm or my college home to South Jordan, Utah, and I just jumped in the water. I became a horse trainer.
And then, how long were you in Utah?
So it was probably 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
and they had some very famous horses with John Hoyt, so the recommendation had come from John Hoyt, and it was very eye-opening. I learned a lot. It was Dwayne Flukiger was a very strict boss. He was a great man. He was a great teacher. He taught me how to make money in horses. He let me pick out horses, and I learned to kind of train them and buy and sell. I remember when I first went there, he said, I don't care how much you work. I don't care what time you work. If you don't want to work, I don't care. But when my daughter gets to the horse show, she better be successful. That deal is on you, and she will be a world champion. So however you got to make that work, you got to make that work. And so I didn't sleep a wink, and it worked out. But it was a great lesson because he kind of threw me the rope and said, you got to make this work. And she was a great girl, Danielle Flukiger, and we did get her some very nice horses, and she was ultimately very successful. It was a great experience for me and a great promoting experience for me.
Awesome.
And then, what happened? Go ahead, Bradford.
No, I just said that's awesome. I love that kind of boss. Get the job done.
Yes, he humbled me. We had, as soon as we came home from the horse show, we had a beautiful rig, a Western hauler, and a beautiful trailer, state of the art at the time. But we unloaded the horses, and we had to wash that truck and trailer. And he would come out there, and if he saw the sun dried the soap on the trailer, it was a big to-do. We literally had to vacuum the shavings out of the road base where we unloaded the horses.
Wow.
In front of his trailer. He was he was really intent on things being tidy and clean and kept up. But it was a good lesson for me, right?
For sure.
So,
that's awesome.
It made me respect what I had, and he was certainly a giving man. He was a great businessman. They gave me a lot of opportunity, but I had to work for it. There's nothing cushy about it. That's for darn sure.
Sure.
So from Utah, where do we go?
So then she aged out of the youth and went on to school, and I came back to Colorado, and I just opened up my business, and it kind of went from there. People, like Chad said, people kind of trickle in, and you get get some good ones, you get some hardworking ones, you get some recreational ones, and you just build your business from there. And so I did always have the luxury of, you know, my parents had a ranch. I had a great place to start. There was a truck and trailer, a big barn, an indoor arena. So, I mean, I didn't have that kind of struggle that a lot of people have. But, I mean, it was a big nut to crack. There was a financially, et cetera. I had to make it work as well. So, I mean, I'm glad my attrition of coming from school to working for someone privately before I went out on my own, I'm glad it went that way.
Is one of these areas a turning point, like one of your first turning points in your career?
Well, my first turning point was certainly when I went to Utah, and you know, we went to all the big shows, and I never had gone to the Congress or any of the big fairs and stuff when I was a kid, so that was very exciting for me. But when I came to Colorado, I think it was a turning point. I certainly loved it, and I think I was very blessed and very lucky to get a real high quality group of people that wanted to ride and work. And, you know, and I always, and I still to this day believe, my whole school of thought was, if I can't help you get it done, I will find someone who can help you get it done. And I think that was kind of the thought process of trainers in that day, was we didn't think we were all encompassing. We certainly knew our strong points and our weak points. And so I was lucky, very, very lucky to have a great support group of friends that if I said, hey, I can't get this horse to turn around, or can you take a look at this rider? I think she's doing good. She's not winning. You know, I was not afraid at all to reach out and get help from other trainers.
Can you mention some of your riders back in that time period?
So, yes, of course, the nearest and dearest to my heart is Sarah Clymer, and she was Sarah Merrill at that time, and she came to me when she was, I believe, 17 or 18 years old. She was in school in Arizona at the Orm School, and I had a Bull Parker gelding that I had bought from John, and I didn't want to sell him, and my mom kind of pressured me to. You know, we had horses, and that was the deal. We had to kind of buy and sell them. So she came with a mutual friend named Wendy Gary. They came up, and Bert Parker was his name, and somehow he kind of caught her eye. He was a goofy, funny-looking thing, but he turned out to be one of the great show horses. And Sarah came to live with our family. She was there, oh my gosh, I don't know, way too long. I'm kidding. She was there 5 or 6 years, and really became like a family member. And at that same time, there was a Carla Wenberg. Was really good about sending me students from CSU when she was teaching at CSU. So another young woman came down that had gone to a class of hers, named Gretchen Kurzweg. And then I had a great group of local people, which included in that group are the people that actually started Chad in business when I moved to Arizona, and Chad took over my business. So, I mean, there's so many. I hate to start naming them because, you know, I'll forget one.
Chad Evans comes in.
It was a great group, probably 20 or so people.
I said Chad Evans comes in right there.
So Chad came from Carla, and Carla and I were doing a video, and we wanted a man, and there's no more manly man than Chad the man. So he came down, and he was our token male in our video, and he did excellent. He'd only really ridden reiners, but he was such a great rider, and he had a lot of feel. So we used him in the video, and then he kind of fell into the group and came down. He graduated from school and came down, and Chad would work and help. I mean, he was so much help, and he would work all night, and he was working at a restaurant, and then he would drive to Parker, and he would sleep in this little casita type house that we had by our barn, and then he'd meet me at the barn early in the morning. We'd clean 20 stalls, and we'd ride all these crazy horses. So, you know, he was a godsend, and he worked hard. So we bought a few horses together. I'm not saying they were great horses, but they were horses to trade up. And I think he learned a lot. He was a novice amateur at that time. And of course, everybody knows Chad and his great success. But I mean, he started hard, working hard. And he started riding horses that were tough.
Can we get our hands on some of those? Can we get our hands on some of those old videos of Chad?
Was he a cook or was he a waiter?
He was a waiter.
I bet he was a very good waiter.
Oh my God, he had money coming out of his pockets.
Yeah.
He knew how to work the crowd.
I could see that.
Okay, so then I'm going to keep going just a little bit further. From Colorado, we go to Arizona.
So yes, and that's kind of a joke amongst the group. So this is when I was about 38 or 39, and I just had I've been doing it for 20 years, and there was a lot of expenses, and it just became too much. And Casey Hinton actually had called me and said, "Hey, I'm getting out of the all-around stuff. I'm going to move into the reiners. I've got this great set of horses, and in that set was Zippos Duclaw. There was, I can't remember the names of the horses, but there's like a real top tier group of horses. And he said, would you be interested in coming down and working with my people, and you can bring some of yours? And I said, yes. I was excited to do it. I think just the pressure of keeping our place going and functioning, and it was the there was 160 acres there. It was an older barn. It was a lot of work. And so I took that opportunity, and I always loved Arizona. I loved all the Arizona people. And so I'm about, I would say I was melancholy in leaving, but it was a good move for me. And of course I loved all those people I had, but they were in great hands with Chad. And I know they like Chad better than me. They're not going to say that, but and Chad, he reminds me of that.
How about the weather change from Colorado to Arizona?
And I was tired, and that was a little bit of it, throwing hay to the broodmares in a blizzard. No, not for Holly anymore. So I was glad to move. I was excited. It was a good move.
So you want to talk about how you were greeted when you came to town?
Yes, I was greeted. Well, I kind of knew, and this is the old joke, and I don't think Debbie's on here, but Debbie Cooper I had met every year from the time I was 9 years old. With John Hoyt's, and every year he would have to reintroduce me to Debbie Cooper and Al Dunning and Becky Dunning. That was before they were married. And nobody remembered me from year to year. You'd think one would. So every year I came down and they'd say, oh, this is Holly from Colorado. Oh, nice to meet you, Holly. Okay. So when I moved to Arizona, Debbie had become a good friend. We had gotten our judge's card at the same time. And so she was quite welcoming, and there was a very nice, the group down here, incredible as far as being supportive of each other. There was a welcome to Arizona dinner, and Al Dunning, I remember he was kind of the master of ceremonies, and we had this lovely dinner at Debbie's, and then it was time for my talking to, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. They said, now, Holly, we welcome you to Arizona. We're excited to have you here. We can certainly use more people, more trainers, more talent. I was very gracious and very grateful that he said, welcoming me. And he said, so this is how we run things. We charge this much a month. We charge this much a mile. We have lessons on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And I'm just nodding my head going, okay, well, that's nice. And I'm thinking, oh, I don't charge that much for mileage, and I like my people to ride every day. And so finally I said, well, okay, well, that's great. That sounds like a great program. So I like to have my people ride every day. That's kind of my program. He goes, Holly, we give lessons on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And then everybody just kind of looked at me. And so I'm like, okay, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays it is. So it was a very strong, powerful group of horsemen. And I think a little bit of it's why it really works. Everybody's very supportive of each other down here. But I mean, we have a kind of a code of ethics among us, and it's very strong and very powerful.
What a group of people you have down there.
What a group of people, isn't that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just, we love going down there. We love Sun Circuit. The people are super nice down there, and I don't know, we just have fun with those people down there. They're very tribal over there.
It's a great, great group of horsemen, and they're extremely helpful. And when I first came down here, if I had trouble with something, I mean, I just ran out to Randy Paul's, or later when Corey Cushing and Chad Parkinson were training here. If I had a tough one that needed them to kind of get to the bottom of, I mean, I just go out there and they jump on. They were, a lot of them at that time were assistant trainers. I mean, they could do more on my horses in 5 minutes than I could in 5 months. So, I mean, the talent here, as well as the weather and the ground and the veterinarians and the shoers, it was a real step up for me from Colorado.
That's awesome.
Perfect. Okay, Bradford, do your thing.
Come on, Brad.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Rapid Fire.
She's ready for you, Tim.
Question number 1. What is your
Question.
Say again?
I can't hear you.
Hello? You can't hear me?
Yeah. You're good. You're good.
Okay. Question 1. You got 12 questions. Sorry about that. What is your signature dish you like to cook at home for guests?
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt, smoked tri-tip.
There you go. What do you like to eat at a hotel for
Hey,
breakfast?
hey. Did you hear what she said?
No, I sparked up. Okay.
Have you been there for that yet, Tim?
Come on, Tim.
That's what every time we go to BJ's Brew House, that's what he gets.
Smoked
Tri-tip.
tri-tip, my guy.
Because I was from San Luis Obispo, man. That's where it all happened.
Sorry to interrupt, but keep going.
What do you like to eat at a hotel for breakfast before going out to judge a long day at the horse show?
Oh, so that's something we got to be careful about, right? So I try to stick with something bland, like a piece of toast and some yogurt. No biscuits and gravy for Holly. Nope.
Okay. Famous 3. Name your favorite breed of dog.
Corgi. Got to be a Welsh Corgi, but I love the Australian Shepherds.
Name your biggest strength about your personality.
My biggest strength about my personality.
Ooh, you got a sign for that?
Dylan.
Oh boy. I think, what would I say it is? Well, I think I'm friendly.
Thank you. Name your favorite male movie star in a movie he was in.
Okay. I'm gonna have to say George Clooney.
Yes.
And I'm so mesmerized by the thought of me and George Clooney. I'm having trouble thinking about the movie. But I'm going to say George Clooney and that one movie that he's really good in.
So,
Man who stares at goats or something like that? Or
Something. George Clooney. For sure.
name
anything George Clooney.
Yes, anything George Clooney.
name your favorite place to go on vacation.
Hawaii.
Nice, me too.
Which male horse trainer tells you the best stories that makes you laugh?
Oh, without a doubt, Scott Newman.
Name a female judge that wears outfits that you like or admire.
Liz Baker.
Aw, Liz.
Not much on me, but she
Do you
carries it.
have an item or thing that brings you good luck?
Well, I used to have this lucky silver dollar until I lent it to Debbie Cooper and she tried to mail it back to me and somebody stole it.
Oh,
so I'm
no.
gonna go my old lucky silver dollar.
Name something you've kept from your childhood.
I'd say a piece of jewelry from my grandmother.
Yeah, for sure. What do you like to do to relax at home?
Sleep.
Thank you. Last question. If you could make a documentary on any horse topic, what would it be about?
If I could name a documentary,
Yeah, you can make
one.
You can
make a documentary.
on the horse topic.
I would like to make a documentary on crazy judge stories because
Yeah.
there are.
All right, we just took note of that. Kona loves documentaries, so we are going to do a documentary on crazy horse judging stories. We
Yes.
love that.
Okay.
Good
Great
job. For 12 questions, that was pretty,
And it wasn't even scary.
Yeah.
yeah, you did. Well, yeah, your sign really helped you kind of back that up.
We're inspired to start.
And
For
now,
Oops, sorry. I don't know where we got that from there.
commercial.
Yeah, we're gonna go to commercial here, but I wanted to recap just a second before we do that. This is our first show back since we've been from the Big A, and we appreciate everybody's patience with all that at Big A because the service and everything was horrible. So thank you. We've had a great crowd tonight, a great response, and of course we're not done yet. We're going to take a quick commercial break. But if any of you have any questions that you may want to get in here for the second half, we would love to be able to ask Miss Holly some of your questions. And then also, before we go into commercial break, remember the keepingitrealshow.com. There's a donate button there. If any of you would like to help us, hit that button, Holly says. If any of you would like to help us to stay on the air, we really appreciate every penny that comes in through that donation button. So that's the keepingitrealshow.com. Kona, take us away. We've got a short commercial break. We promise it's short this time because we got a little bit more with Holly tonight. Stay tuned. Woo! Love the energy.
Every once in a while, something comes along that could be a game changer. Enter Unishippers, a trusted shipping source for more than 30 years. If you need a reliable, fast shipping source, turn to a specialist that knows the unique shipping needs of the equine reproductive marketplace. As an authorized UPS reseller, Unishippers offers unbeatable shipping value. Let Unishippers deliver for you. Call Mark and his team today.
It's a story. We still have pages left to write. It's a journey, and it's a beautiful ride. Be fearless, be brave, and be the light. Listen to your heart, and let it guide you through the night. Let go into the great unknown.
And everything.
Oh, look who showed up. Chad Evans showed up. How about that? Miss Chad Evans. I can't. I'm trying to make out his profile picture, and it looks like he's got his red. We got his red wig on there. I don't know. That was a fun night with Chad there live at the Big A. That was fun. Are you muted, Tim? You're muted, buddy.
Did you mute me?
There you go. You're good now. We hear you, man. What were you saying?
I was asking Chad about being a waiter. I was curious, like, what
Oh,
restaurant.
yeah. I see, Chad. Yeah, you probably missed the first half of this with Holly, and you missed the fact that she was talking about your waiter days and how you just raked in the dough.
Cleaned all those stalls and slept in the car.
Yeah.
School.
Hey, let's bring Miss Holly in. We have a question right now. What's this? Oh, look, Holly's got a little note for you, Chad. So we have a quick question for you before we get rolling back with our.
Give it to me.
It's go ahead and pop that up. Which is more satisfying, when a horse you're training finally gets something they've been struggling with for a long time, or when a rider does it?
When a rider does.
I would agree with that.
Not that I have riders that struggle with things. But when that light bulb goes off and you can see that they feel good about it and they can get that horse to compete or do that maneuver, that's a great feeling.
You bet. Agreed.
Can we promo Holly a little bit before we keep going here?
Promo her for tomorrow night?
Well, that means like, how come you've never been married, right? I want to give props out to Holly, man.
Okay,
can
well,
And
we're
cook.
going to just say a few reasons that we're going to get off the table. It's not my odor. That's not a problem. I'm a clean housekeeper. That's not my problem. I like to cook. That's not my problem. So we're leaving that door open.
It's on
but
the dudes.
Here's what I told you earlier. It is not too late, listeners. I think like an online wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keeping It Real show. We could do it right here on the Keeping It Real show.
Oh,
If somebody just wanted to jump up there and
Heck yeah.
type on the side,
like, yeah.
I'm going to take a real look at it. So my answer to that is, I don't know. It's cruel, and thanks for bringing that up.
Okay, you know,
Anyways,
we put your email up if they want it interested, right?
oh, you told me farmers only. Okay.
What's your handle on farmersonly.com?
Really, just a beating heart is fine for me, and if they can hook
And
up
a
the
good
horse
appetite.
that'd be nice.
I told you I'm going to promo you tonight, Holly. I'm going to find you a
Thank
date.
you.
Yeah.
You're such a nice
Look
lady.
at that
You're-
nice, bold red. Maybe it's just that you're too powerful, Holly. You got your red on tonight. I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe you're just too powerful.
A little neck lift, little eye lift.
I guarantee if you went to dinner with Holly, that you would get so much information.
Oh, my
from her.
gosh. Yes, for sure.
It'd be- She has so many stories and so much history
Stories.
to say.
Did we pop over the hot? Did we pop over the hot Holly pictures?
Show them.
Show the hot Holly pictures.
Holly,
Yeah, look at that. Look at, man, look at that. Look at her legs in that pink outfit. I mean, come on. My wife would be like
Come on,
picking that out like crazy. Hey, Chad, by the way, we've already talked about where you slept in the tack shack, man. You were late, but it's all good. And how about your pigtails down there on your little pony?
I know.
Look, she can dress up and be classy, guys. She can go cowboy down with the pony.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm a go downtown kind of girl. I mean, anybody with a little proposal right now, I'm ready.
you heard it here. Keep it real.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Holly, one more I got to talk about before we go into some serious
Hey,
stuff.
wait.
Tell me how you met Sissy.
So, I guess that could maybe even be divine intervention, how Sissy dropped into my little world. But it's a kind of a funny story. I wasn't training horses. I was doing real estate, and this old client called up, and there'd been a big blow up at some barn, and she needed to move like 15 horses. And I was like, well, that's not up my alley. And please, we don't have anybody. We got to move them today. And actually, you got to go get them. So I was like, okay. So I kind of jumped back in and I went and got these horses, and several of them were owned by Sissy. And I didn't know Sissy. I didn't know her at all. And she was elusive and very, very famous here in Arizona. So me not being an Arizona person, her name did not resonate with me, but it absolutely resonated with my friends, and they showed me articles and pictures and this larger than life Arizona woman. And so one day I haven't heard from her. It's like 3 months. I have these horses, and I call her up and I say, I'm Holly. I have your horses. I'm not sure what you want me to do with them. And some of them probably don't need me riding them. I don't think you need to be putting more money in them. Let's get a little program. And so she showed up in the next few days. And mind you, this was when the real estate and the market and everything was just going crazy in Arizona. So she was very busy with her life and her family. And so she comes out and we started a friendship and a kind of a laugh fest, I would say, which has been close to 10 years now. And
Wow.
so lucky to have her come in. She's a great horseman, but she's been a great mentor to me as well, just in life choices and business. And, I can't say enough nice things about her. She's done so very much for my family and me, and I'm very grateful. And so because of that, I every day do not complain bitterly about how our horses roll in the dirt, and I have to rinse them off repetitively. So she's a great sport, and she's a great advocate for the horse itself, for the health of the horse, for the humane treatment of the horse. She's an easy person to work for, and she's a lot of fun. So I'm very grateful to be where I am. And so hopefully that gets me another couple of months with this job.
I was looking forward to actually hearing that, because I was wondering how your relationships kind of started, because
Yes, like family. I'm very,
could see
very
that.
grateful.
I could see that. You guys seem like you enjoy your time together. Every time I see y'all,
Yes.
it feels like she respects you, but there's a mutual respect back.
Oh,
So,
definitely.
yeah.
Definitely.
Super sharp girl. I like Sissy too.
Yeah.
So let's jump into one of these. So you were like in the introduction place, the leveling program back in the day.
Yes. So
And
I
back in
worked
the
with the band committee on the actually investigating leveling. And this was originally just for the novices. So yes, I was on that directive committee.
what was your vision back then?
So I just saw here in Arizona, especially, that we had a great group of novices that once they pointed out, they didn't feel comfortable in moving up. They also never really had, outside of the Congress and the Texas Championship show, the Novice Championship, there really wasn't a showcase show for these people. And so I brought that to AQHA's attention, and they jumped on that bandwagon. And I think I think the other breeds have really followed suit in doing that too. And I think it's been a tremendous boost for our entry level program. And it's been a great spot for new trainers to come in. It's really opened up, I think, a lot of avenues for new people, new trainers, new venues. So I was proud to be part of that.
The other aspect of it, maybe we didn't talk about, but showing more horses, right?
Yeah.
Right. So now there's more horses. You can show that senior, and then if you have too many, you can have your assistants showing them and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
pleasure guys have
And a
choosing.
good place for horses that maybe aren't open level horses, similar to the reining, right? There's rookie horses and there's open level horses. So it gave those horses a real valued position.
So how maybe you said it, but how did you see the progression of the direction it's going from the roots of it and how it's progressed to up to now and maybe the future, you think?
So you're asking me, am I thinking it's successful, or how do I see the future of grassroots people coming in?
Say again, I'm sorry.
Are you wondering if I think the program is successful, or are you wondering about where I see the grassroots people coming in
Well,
from?
Both.
I want you, from your vision, how you saw it to where it's at now, and then what we can do to even improve it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think it certainly was successful. It certainly met the need at the time. But I think Patty Carter did a great job in taking the leveling even one step farther, where we have the level 2. We have the leveling in the open, which we didn't have. It wasn't just the level 1 or the old novice, youth, novice, amateur division. So I think that whole leveling has certainly moved forward with the times. But I think there is still concern about our grassroots people on how we replenish from the bottom up. And so, we've talked about that a little bit on how I believe people, it's in people's power to get out and solicit and encourage and ignite and excite people to come into our industry so that we can move them down the pipeline or up the pipeline.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just going to lead you into your program then, because I think this is a good place, because that's a different avenue for, again,
Right.
interest of kids into the horse industry. Can you talk about your program, your junior high school program for riders? And how it goes?
What just kind of dropped in my lap, and it wasn't as if this was my brainchild, is here in Arizona, we had a few teams which were affiliated with the IEA, or the Interscholastic Equestrian Association, which is a well-established association in Ohio, which supports and sanctions competitive events, just the horsemanship and the reining for middle school, high school students. And so I just happened to have some kids riding with me enough to make a team, which took 3. And so that's kind of how it began. They just came and asked me if I would jump in and be a coach. And before I knew it, it had blossomed into a team of 16 people. A lot of interest, a lot of help from the Arizona Quarter Horse people, Arizona Quarter Horse Association, Doug Hulls, Connie Hay. Just I think a real strong acknowledgement that we need to reach out in the community to those kids that are interested, or those kids that might be interested, to try to bring them into our our sport of horsemanship. So that's what I've done, and it's been very successful and very rewarding.
How did the sign-up thing go? I mean, how did that work?
Yeah. So the my high school team, which I had, and then I kind of morphed it into a little different venue where we have our own association called the USTPC, or the United States Team Pattern Championships, and it's just an association that I started mirroring the two primary high school, middle school associations, which are the IEA, Interscholastic Equestrian Association, or YEDA, which is the Youth Equestrian Development Association, I believe. I apologize if I got YEDA, and it's actually an offshoot of the IEA and also based in Ohio. So the West Coast really was behind in getting the interest going. There is a strong interest in the state of Washington, where they actually have high school sanctioned equestrian sports. And so I've worked through our community here, really by word of mouth. The kids kind of recruit the kids. And I would say from my group, well, I can say that 20% of them have moved into showing competitively on the quarter horse level. And from my set of high school kids, 4 of them were granted scholarships to ride on NCEA teams. So it's been really successful, and I think.
Can you talk about how we talked about yesterday about the team mentality that these kids need to develop?
And here's people, like.
Are these some of your kiddos there, Holly?
Here they are. Yes, this is the mighty Desert Heat Equestrian, and the girls, the 3 girls on the bottom, those 3 girls were granted scholarships. They were from my first team, and real talented girls, and came with talent, but they weren't really embedded largely into the AQHA. The one on the left, Andy Locker, came from the quarter horses, but the other 2 girls kind of moved into the quarter horses because of this team. But I kind of lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
About the team mentality, how these girls need to be on a team.
So the whole idea, I kind of forgot about it, but when I was a kid, it was such a big deal to be on the Colorado team that went to the youth world, and we've lost that a little bit. I think the Congress still has a pretty fun team event, but these kids that come in, the team is very important to them. They ride team horses, they draw for horses, so the pressure on the parent to produce a 6-figure horse is not there. They are beginner riders up to open riders, so it takes a team. They're very supportive. They mentor each other. It's really as far as a model, it is a great model for educating kids and keeping kids happy and giving them somewhere to go and some validation on pride and being part of a group. And some of these kids, I've had letters from their parents, had trouble in school, they were bullied, et cetera, as we all know happens now, more than probably it used to when I was growing up in school. And so I feel very good about what this tool has allowed me to do as far as helping kids socially, as well as in the horse world. So it's been very rewarding for me, and I think it's something that anybody can do, right? Any horse person, anybody can certainly reach out to these kids and get something going.
So, I mean, Bradford, we talk about this a lot, right?
Yeah.
About giving younger girls in that time zone some responsibility or something, because all we do is look at our phones all day, right?
Yep.
And you talked about that we have to develop them a little bit more and stuff like that.
Yep.
And what a great deal here. I mean, I was so impressed because I didn't know about it. Okay.
Right.
And then when we
it's
about
not
yesterday.
on the West Coast at all. and it's interesting because, that's our heritage, the West Coast. The horse is a big part of our heritage. But I think it just takes someone to get in there, and it takes some work. I'm not going to say it doesn't take some work, and it takes some support. And I had endowment after endowment and support from wonderful families.
Can you talk about some of the people who support your
Of
deal?
course, Sissy. We talked about Sissy. I hosted here at her ranch. She keeps a great part of the horses at her expense. And these are retired horses, and one of them, Brad, is Frosty. We bought from Brad, who was this wonderful world champion and one of Sissy's very successful show horses. So the Johns family, Susie Johns, and kids, they probably gave us tens of thousands of dollars in saddle pads, shorties hats, candles hats, shafts. At one gifting, there was 25 pairs of shafts. The Searles have done so much, given so much. Carrie Graham, same thing. All kinds of saddles and tack and clothing. Mike Fester, Showtime, has given us things. Michelle Pornis sent me some shafts. Janet Gunn has sent me some things. Show Me Again. We have black pants for armies of children. So
that's so awesome.
Without all that, and they're so grateful. They're so grateful.
Amazing. Right. I mean, such a big shout out to all those people that helped you.
Oh man.
Well, that's
a donation of the horses, the people allowing us. Debbie Cooper has let us ride some of her greatest horses in the horse shows. I mean, for those kids to see their face, and we turn them out. Their tails are in, they're in show tack. They have the nice saddle pads on, and when those kids get on those horses and feel that, I mean, their faces, it's something.
And so that you do part of this at the fall championships, isn't that correct?
Yes.
I mean,
So
the people, there's just so many people there. It is awesome.
So a quick statistic to the IAA National Championship, which is was sponsored by NRHA. I took a team of 5 people, and an additional 47 family members came. So including myself, there was 53 people, and that's just one trainer filling 53 seats, and that was in barn 6. It was standing room only. So that gives you an idea of bringing that family component.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, grandmas and grandpas, they all cheered and wore the jalapeno hats. It was fun.
If you mentioned that, I was listening about where these kids go after your program's done.
So the kids that want to move on, most all of them, I would say, are looking toward some kind of team experience. Whether it would be, say, for instance, with Carla Winberg at her college, or an IHSA school similar to her school, or to NCEA. They really are looking toward scholarships and toward being positioned on a team. They're very valuable riders because they can ride the tough horses, and they've had a lot of practice in showing in that format. And then those that want to move on, I very happily move them to the trainers in the neighborhood. I know that Ryan Kale has taken some of those kids. Of course, the Rainers have gone to different people: Abby Kazenza, Debbie Cooper, Patrick Flaherty, Carrie Klingenberg. I mean, they're moving into the NRHA very strong. Right. So it's a good feeding pipeline to the trainers. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Me or you? You. I mean, from listening to this yesterday, I'm overwhelmed just listening to the program, and I could see the wheels moving. I mean, I'm not the horse trainer, but for horse trainers, for kids having an opportunity to learn to ride horses, learn to show, learn to be on a team. I mean, at that age, I mean, just wow.
Hey, before we move on, pop that up from Kathleen there. This isn't a farmersonly.com, but can you give us your email, or where can people send if they want to donate to this program? What about can we?
Well, they can send that to me, and I'm happy to give my address, or I can pick them up at different shows if I was in your area, whatever is most convenient. And what I do is I just sort of have a hodgepodge closet, and we check those clothes out to different teams, those shafts, etc. A lot of the tack that we've gotten that we can't use, like English saddles, etc., we sell, and that money goes into the USTPC for the cash awards. We gave away $15,000 at the Scottsdale Championship, just in that group. So any kind of, we are not a 501c3, so unfortunately there's not a tax donation,
Yeah.
but any is very much appreciated.
So what is an email? Because we don't want to give you your address, your physical address or anything.
But
So what's a
Yeah, it could be good too, right?
I mean, I'll be
you may
out
get
there.
some knocks from a suitor on your door tonight.
So my email is Holly, HOLLYHQ, like Queen or Quebec.
Holly Hover Queen.
Yes, at hotmail.com. And if you have trouble writing that down, of course,
We're
you can
putting it
access that on the AQHA.
we're putting it on right now. We're putting it right up here on the comments. So there you go.
Okay.
Good job.
HQH at hotmail.com.
I mean,
Thank you.
if you guys donate to this, it's a great cause.
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel it. I can
Great cause.
just feel it, right?
And you do a great job of promoting it. I remember all the way back. Somebody just told me not too long ago. Remember the Pro-Am trail, the team trail or something like that? You did
Yes,
at the
yeah.
fall championship not too long ago. And
Yes.
that was so much fun. You did
Yes,
such
we
a great
had
job.
Ride Trail, and we tried some of those money events, and at those, and Tim knows because he did the courses, but everybody was so tired by the time they would actually be able to compete in it, and we gave away a lot of money.
Yes.
So.
And you had $100. You could put $100 it back in to rewrite it if you wanted to, I think.
Oh, I mean, I forgot how much money. It seems Sissy would probably remember because she's the banker on that. But it was, close to $15,000-$20,000 that was given away.
It was a blast. It was a blast.
I still got. Before we're done tonight, I really got to talk about the Arizona State question.
Yeah,
team
right.
sure.
also.
Pop that
This
picture.
last summer, about a year ago, I was contacted by the team captain from ASU, and they have what is called a club sport team. So it's not an ASU athletic department supported team. This is a student-run team, and they got my name, I don't know where, and they solicited me to become their coach, which I did. And so we had a real good beginning, a real good start, and they were leading their zone and region, moving into the semifinals. But then when the COVID virus hit, of course, ASU shut down and all those kids dispersed. And so I think things are still up in the air for this fall at ASU. So that whole program is on hold. But the interesting statistic to that is that we set up a booth at what's called our Club Sport Fair, and that's where everybody from underwater basket weaving to Western, the Western discipline, equitation, or equestrian is what I'm trying to say. We set up a little booth. We had 72 people sign up, men and women. It was about 30% men, and there were people represented from 12 different countries. So my point to that is it was just me, one lone horse trainer, and a banner and a few pictures and some girls from ASU, and we found 72 new people to the horse industry. And so when you look at that number, that's a pretty startling number from one college and one trainer and one state. So when people say they're worried about grassroots, my retort to that is there's people out there. We just got to find them. And
Right.
we have to make it affordable for them to dip their toe in the water.
Yep.
I agree. Well, I got two more and then we have to be done. So
You're tiring of me, aren't you?
No, we've got a whole nother night tonight, and
back tomorrow night. and
we
talk
have
about
another show in my household that goes on here at 8:30. So that's why he's like trying to.
We'll go
You know,
fast.
I in 2015, you're the most valuable professional
Yeah.
MVP. In 2017, Professional Horsewoman of the Year. Can you see yourself how big of an impact you've made
Yeah,
in the
look at that.
horse, right?
You know what? I don't see myself as that. I see myself as a representative of my generation of the great horsewomen, the Carlas, the Patty Campbells, Patty Carters, Debbie Cooper, Lolly, Abby, Carrie, Debbie Kale. I know I'm forgetting people, all my East Coast friends. I mean, I feel like I'm just a representative of a girl who, found a passion with horses, had some great background. I had a lot of knowledge that I could pass on. And I was so grateful. It meant so much to me. But, I don't really think of myself as having a big impact. I think I'm a good example of those that have made a big impact.
But like I go to your story and I think about your mother and your grandmother, right? How impactful they were in their time, right?
Determined.
And I think you're following in their footsteps and trying to keep the bar as high as those two ladies were in their time.
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, they were definitely trailblazers, and we are strong Nordic women, and
Right.
I'm sure people will agree. People who know are nodding their heads, going, "No kidding." But yeah, I'm proud of where I've come from. I'm grateful. Right. I'm grateful for what my parents, they opened the door, and begrudgingly, I think they'd prefer that I was an attorney sitting in an office in a nice suit with a lot of money and some fancy cars. But I think, they opened this door, and I think that's a good lesson to some parents is, you can't snuff out passion, so you might as well get behind it, because it's pretty hard to divert someone when they're so passionate about something.
Okay, so my last question of the night for you.
Yes.
How do this hit me yesterday, how do young, ambitious people find their niche in the horse industry?
Well, I think you just got to jump in. I think you got to check your ego at the door. I think you need to, I'm not sure we see as many people going to the talented trainers, the premier trainers in our different disciplines. As far as internships, it seems to me that my day, we were lucky to get $100 a week and food and ride the good horses. So I hear people say they struggle to get good help. I think if someone was young and ambitious, if they just worked harder, put their head down, listened, learned, moved around occasionally to get a different viewpoint, and then develop what works for them. And I think that comes from when my mom would take me for lessons, as we found horse trainers later in my youth career. She would just say, you need to be quiet and listen and don't argue with them and do what they tell you. And then when you come home, take what works for you from what they taught you and develop your own system. And I think that's what I would do if I was young and starting over. I would go to the very best, and I'd be a sponge, right? And I'd work. Yeah. I wouldn't want them to think they could get rid of me. I would work that hard.
This lady's so inspiring to listen to, right?
Absolutely.
She's like a spark plug, right? Spark plug still. And she has such good information, and she has that passion that we always like, and that drive, and she's going to say it like it is, keeping it real, right? Love it.
Keeping it real.
Yeah.
Love that stuff.
It's a lot. It's a lot of passion coming from a 32-year-old.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Holly, thank you so much. We will see you very soon. For those of you that don't know, Holly's coming back tomorrow because there's a lot of judging wisdom that she has not imparted to us yet that we are going to bring to you tomorrow night on part 2 of the Keeping It Real show with Holly Hova.
Okay, thanks, guys. Tomorrow.
Yes, we will see you tomorrow, Holly. Have a good rest of your evening. Oh, yeah, well, much harder rapid fire tomorrow night, Tim.
Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready for that stuff.
Bring your blue dress, man.
There we go.
Thanks, guys.
You bet, Holly. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll touch up on a few things here, and then we'll close it out. Everybody, thank you again so much for watching tonight. Had a great crowd all night long. Want to mention, and I'll also ask, we'll touch on it tomorrow night when we jump back on, but how'd y'all like Monday's show with our live class going, and then the commentating with Tim, Dave Dellin, and Cody Parrish? I, for one, thought it was awesome. Of course, I was behind the scenes with Show for Dough going on there, handing awards out and keeping music live and real and all that. If you haven't been to a Show for Dough event yet, please make sure you come and see one. But I thought Tim did a great job, asked some great questions like he always does, keeping it real and keeping everything flowing, and just great stuff on how to coach non-pros from Dave and Cody. And it was really, really good. Me watching it back, I really enjoyed it. But
if you need Holly's phone number, we'll bring it tomorrow night.
We're looking for a suitor for Holly Hova.
Harry, Holly.
Oh, remember Remember, go check out keepingitrealshow.com. We could use any donations from $10 or whatever you feel it's in your pocketbook you can get rid of. Thank you so much. Y'all have a good night. See you tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Are we on?
This has been a Kona Cam production. Thanks for watching. Tune in next time.